One of the things that we're working hard to establish is a space that's innovative, creative, and that also leverages technology. And so what I'd like to share with you now is our 3D printers. So we have 3 3D printers. What this helps our participants do is they can actually print out, in quotes, physical models of whatever solutions they come up with for their projects. Yeah. So they print out using the spools of plastic thread, and then end up with 3D models. So we are working to incorporate this even more in our curriculum. One of the key programs that we run here is design thinking, and we'll be using this as part of our design thinking process.
The design thinking process, can you give us a bit of depth on how that works?
Yes, design thinking is based off of human-centered design. So it's basically saying how can we create solutions that meet the specific need of the target user. So a lot of times we come up with ideas of maybe good products, but as whether those products actually meet the need of the targeted user, that's in question. So we've had participants who've come through the program who, as they've sat through design thinking, they've actually remodeled their businesses because they've realized the solutions they came up with, it was just the idea, but there's actually no need on the ground. So design thinking takes them through the process of brainstorming, ideation, coming up with many ideas, and then going back into the field, right here on campus, to do interviews and to collect data and come back and again make some tweaks and come up with a prototype, and then end up with a solution that actually works.
One of the realities that confront is that there are so many young Africans out there. So many want to have this opportunity, and so many realistically will not get this opportunity. Can you give a sense of how many out of the many that want to be here, how many actually get to be here, and what would you say as a major leader in this program, what would you say to those who are on the outside looking in, who hope to have an opportunity like this?
You're right in saying that there's a large number who would like to be here. Let me just give you some statistics. During our last application cycle for our cohort 17, 18, and 19, about 270 slots in total, we had well over 5,000 applicants from the 14 countries. So we're talking about 4,730 people who wouldn't get a chance to come to the center. That's a huge number, and that's been replicated over all the past 2 years. Those are the realities that we face. In fact, that's a reality that caused the centers to be established, because when we're talking about maybe 50,000 applicants for 1,000 Mandela Washington Fellowship slots, there's just a huge number. Like I was saying, a drop in the ocean. You don't need to come to a place like this for you to grow as a leader. What you actually need is your own personal determination and drive. Now, this is a wonderful opportunity. It's fully funded, it's fully sponsored. We take care of all the costs. We host you while you're here. You get to network with participants from 13 other countries in the region, and that's wonderful. But that doesn't stop you from growing on your own. One of the things that we like to tell individuals is, your growth as an individual is your responsibility. YALI serves Sub-Saharan Africa. So the 4 centers serve Sub-Saharan Africa. So we've got one here in Nairobi, which serves 14 countries in Eastern Central Africa. We've got one in Ghana that serves Anglophone West Africa. We've got one in Senegal, in Dakar, that serves Francophone West Africa. And then there's one in Pretoria in South Africa that serves the Southern African part. But they also have a satellite campus at, I believe, in Maputo that serves the Lusophone, the Portuguese-speaking South Africans. So that's where the 4 centers are. Now, each of them has taken a different approach in terms of curriculum, in terms of how the center is structured. But all of us have the same intent. It's transforming Africa as leaders. At present, we're running 9 cohorts a year, and each cohort has approximately 90 participants. So we're currently in our 16th cohort that graduates this Friday. And up to cohort 15, we've got 1,289 alumni spread over the 14 countries. So every single country that we serve is represented. And this alumni, what's also really powerful is this alumni are organized in country chapters, and we've got 13 of those already established.
4 different regional leadership centers across the continent. So many applicants, so many alumni, so many who seek to be a part of this. What would you say to the organizations, institutions, both public and private, across the continent, about the role they can and should play in terms of providing opportunities for young people who don't have the chance to access this kind of an opportunity?
First off, I'm sort of by appreciating those that have already plugged into such initiatives, because we do have several, and we're sitting right in front of logos of some of the companies that have supported this initiative. And so let me start off by just appreciating those that have already put their money where their mouth is. But what I would say to other organizations is it's high time that we as Africans took ownership of such initiatives. We are raising leaders for this continent. We are raising entrepreneurs. We're raising politicians, future politicians. We're raising civil society activists and leaders, and it's for our benefit. These are the people who are going to be employed in those large organizations. These are the ones who are going to create new innovations that are going to radically alter the landscape of Africa. So we need to put in money to invest in such initiatives. But one of the questions that we've always asked ourselves is, and that people have asked, is, are you a training facility? Are you a youth development facility? Our response is always, we are a leadership development program. Slight difference there. So whereas we've got participants from the three sectors, private sector, public sector, and civil society sector, our key focus is leadership development. Now, here's what I mean. We are keen to develop leaders of those sectors. So we don't want to create an expert in the private sector. We don't want to create a public management expert, civil society expert. No. We want to create a leader in that sector. So what we work to do over the weeks they're with us is to elevate their thinking to the point where they start to realize that I can influence my sector. So it's not about my business and how to do bookkeeping and how to sell and how to market and how to structure my business. Now, we talk about some of that. But the idea is, how can I go back home and radically transform the private sector? How can I deal with vices like corruption and all of that? How do I radically uproot those things? Public management, same thing. So we don't want to make expert bureaucrats or expert government employees or expert politicians. No, we want to raise their thinking to the point where they realize, I can and I must transform that sector. So that's really what we're about. It's about transforming those sectors. So we don't want them to be leaders in their sectors, we want them to be leaders of their sectors. And there's a slight difference. And that difference is what makes our approach very distinct. Because when everybody comes in, we look at them and we tell them that they're leaders. And our expectations of them are high because they're leaders. So we challenge them, we push them, we hold them to a very high standard because they're leaders. And lastly, because they're leaders, our expectation of them as well is when they go back home, they must then influence others. They must raise other leaders. So what I like to say is, we're not teaching these young people how to fish. We're teaching them how to go teach others how to fish.
Mr. Kamau, I just want to say thank you for hosting us in this Regional Leadership Center. And I wish you the very best in all of your future endeavors with the young people across East and Central Africa. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and for sharing our story. Thank you.